Let me hide myself in thee.
Welcome to the Steady Anchor Podcast, a podcast on Christian faith and practice, highlighting doctrine and discipleship in the local church. I'm Luke, and welcome to the show. Welcome back to the Steady Anchor Podcast. We're continuing our series through the book of Proverbs. This is Proverbs chapter 2. We're going to be working through it today in a short video. We're going through the whole month of January, one chapter of Proverbs a day. Hopefully this continues to help us to seek wisdom, to help us understand, to think wisely, to act wisely, to follow God and glorify Him in every way that we can. I'll be reading Proverbs chapter 2. We'll read through the chapter, discuss it a little bit, draw out some points of application, and hopefully that helps you throughout your day. We're going in. I'm going to be reading out of the ESV, English Standard Version. If you have your Bible with you or a phone that you can follow along, please do. If not, that's fine. I'll be reading out as clearly and concisely as possible. Proverbs chapter 2. My son, if you receive my words and treasure up my commandments with you, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding. Yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice and watching over the way of the saints. Then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity, every good path. For wisdom will come into your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Discretion will watch over you, understanding will guard you, delivering you from the way of evil, from men of perverted speech, who forsake the paths of uprightness, to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice in evil doing, and delight in the perverseness of evil. Men whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their ways. So you will be delivered from the forbidden woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words, who forsakes the companion of her youth and forgets the covenant of her God. For her house sinks down to death, and her paths to the departed. None who go to her come back, nor do they regain the paths of life. So you will walk in the way of the good, and keep to the paths of the righteous. For the upright will inhabit the land, and those with integrity will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the treacherous will be rooted out of it. This is the word of the Lord. So we see here in Proverbs chapter 2, continuing the message from Proverbs chapter 1 yesterday, where Solomon is speaking to his son, or to the character of his son, speaking as a father to the young men, asking him, compelling him to seek after instruction and wisdom. Solomon is trying to guard the young, to enlighten them to truth, to point them in the right direction so that they will live wisely, they will act wisely, they will live in humbleness and fear before their God. Solomon speaks of the value of wisdoms. He says in verses 1 through 15, basically, that it's important for us to be seeking wisdom above all the things of this earth, that more than silver and gold, more than hidden treasures and possessions, we should be seeking after and understanding the fear and knowledge of God. We seek after this because ultimately it is of greater importance. It is of greater value that we may be rich for a year, we may be rich for a lifetime, but if we lack wisdom, then ultimately it will lead to our destruction in one way or the other. If we are seeking greedily after things and material possessions, there's only so far that can get us. And we know, at least from Solomon's case, that it was by his wisdom that his wealth increased. And this is one of the general principles that we see in Proverbs, is that if you seek after riches with greed in your heart, then you will likely not get the riches you desire. But if you seek after wisdom and live wisely and live in the humility and fear of the Lord, then you will get riches. You will get at least monetary security. Obviously, we know that we shouldn't be striving after riches and material things in life. We know that the things of great and importance are the things of eternal, lasting value. But we do want to be secure. We want to be stable. We want to be successful in our endeavors. We want to do those things to the glory of God. Many people have taken their theology of prosperity to such a far extreme that it obscures the gospel, where God's favor is in you determined by how wealthy and successful you become, because God just wants to make you healthy, wealthy, and blessed. But at the same time, we shouldn't take it so far to the other way that we say, well, all possessions are evil, all riches are evil. We have to live in absolute poverty, like the desert hermits and the monks. And I don't think that's a correct interpretation either. I think obviously the propensity towards riches is more prominent and more destructive. Certainly, that's definitely a higher trend. But there's the balance that we need to realize that we want to seek wisdom to succeed in our endeavors. We want to honor God in the way that we work, honor God in the way that we produce. Moving on, we see that it is the Lord himself who gives us wisdom. It's from his mouth that we get knowledge and understanding. That it is God who uses knowledge and insight and understanding to guide our paths, to direct us and guide us in the right direction, to keep us from the way of sin and destruction, to keep us in ways of purity. In verses 16 through 19, it's kind of a side part where it speaks of wisdom delivering us from the forbidden woman. It speaks of the allure. Sorry, that's the cat. The allure of temptation and of lust, of perversion, of sexual sin. Shush. Of especially if this is addressed to younger men. Just a second. Sorry about that. I'm house sitting, and I guess the cat just wanted some attention. Anyway, so Solomon, writing to kind of the character of his son in this passage, is warning him against the adulterous woman, the temptation, the lust of the flesh that leads them to destruction. Obviously, this is a problem for people from all different groups and all different situations in life, but we see most often that the ones who fall into temptation, into sexual sin, the ones who probably struggle with that at a great height are the younger men, the men who are growing up. And so Solomon, as a wiser man, as a father, wants to warn them ahead of time to avoid the adulteress, avoid the smooth words of the woman who forsakes the companion of her youth, the husband that she's had from her younger days. She forgets her covenant with God. She forgets the covenant of marriage that she made with her husband, and she also forsakes the obligations of uprightness that she has with God. And this again is kind of a parable also of foolishness, that the adulterous woman, like Lady Wisdom, calls out and invites all to come in to seek the way of uprightness. So folly and foolishness are calling with temptation, calling us and tempting us, trying to pull us in and pull us into sin. Verses 20 through 22 kind of summarize that righteousness helps us to walk in the right path. It helps us to go the way of what is good, what is right, what is true. Wisdom leads the upright, and the upright will inherit the land, that will inhabit the land. They will remain in it because of integrity, but the wicked will be cut off and rooted out because of it. We see again this general principle that God is with the righteous. God is supporting the ones who do good, who fear him, and that ultimately, even if we have to wait for the end of days and to the last point of judgment, that the wicked will be cut off from the land and removed from it, and it was the righteous who will remain. So how do we apply this? How do we make this come to terms with our daily life? How do we make this bear fruit in our lives? Well, we should seek wisdom more than possessions. We should recognize that the Lord is the one who gives wisdom, and so ask him frequently. We should recognize that wisdom guards us from wickedness and the way of evil. We should remember that temptation leads us to destruction, and that the path of righteousness leads to life. I hope that blesses your day. If you've enjoyed this, if this has benefited you, please share with a friend. I pray that you would go and love God, love your neighbor, and love his church. I messed that up. Anyway, have a good day.